I was 12 years old the first time poor mountain called my name. Folks in Cridge Hollow said the ridge was cursed, that its stones remembered every man the mines had swallowed, but hunger and grief dull fear faster than whiskey. After the collapse, my father lay twisted and silent on the cot, a miner without a mine, lungs full of dust and bones too stubborn to mend. My mother kept the fire alive with scraps of coal she picked from the slag heaps, and my sister Sadi coughed through nights that never ended. The doctors had stopped coming. Charity had limits. One dawn I woke before the rooster, the mist sitting thick enough to hide the world, and something, soft as a breath, low as a hymn, seemed to murmur from the ridge. I followed it. The forest pressed close, damp and cold, but the sound steadied me, not quite words, more like a heartbeat echoing through stone. When the fog thinned, I saw it, a crooked spire stabbing through the trees, sunlight catching on its cross, the old Mountain Church. Everyone said it was condemned, that it had fallen years ago. Yet it stood there waiting, the mist curling around its doors like it had been expecting me all along. The closer I crept, the louder that humming grew until it was all I could hear. The doors, swollen by rain, opened with a sigh. Inside smelled of cedar and candle wax instead of rot. Colored shards of glass painted the pews in red and gold, light filtering through windows no one had cleaned in decades. A Bible lay on the pulpit, its pages stiff with age, open to the words, "He bringeth them out of darkness and the shadow of death." My name could have been written underneath. Next to it hung a rusted key that trembled as if breathing. When I touched it, warmth shot through my fingers. A side door unlocked itself and drifted open, revealing a stone stair curling down into the mountain's heart. Lantern light flickered, though there were no lanterns, only crystals in the walls giving off their own pale fire. At the bottom sat a room full of ledgers, jars, and relics. On one brittle page I found the names of people I knew, Millers, Jenkins, even Masons, followed by a note in neat black ink, "Healed by the waters, 1918. My pulse pounded in my ears. The air smelled of rain underground. Somewhere below that chamber, something was moving, slow, rhythmic, alive. I found the source beneath a trapdoor set in the stone. It opened to a cavern lit by veins of quartz glowing blue-white, as if lightning had been frozen mid-flash. In its center lay a pool so clear it seemed empty until you saw the light swirling inside it, slow as breath. I knelt, heart hammering. The air was thick with whispers, kind, ancient, neither male nor female, yet heavy with meaning. A silver chalice rested on the rock beside me, etched with spirals that pulsed faintly. When I touched it, the whispers coalesced into a voice inside my skull. "The waters heal. The waters remember." I asked, half aloud, half inside, if it could save my sister. The glow deepened, flooding the cavern with living light. I dipped the cup. The water burned warm, brighter than flame, yet gentle as skin. For a long moment I felt the mountain breathing with me, each inhale carrying hope, each exhale sorrow. When the light dimmed again, I climbed back toward the faint outline of daylight, clutching that cup like it held every answer the world had ever refused us. By the time I stumbled home, the sun had fallen and the air tasted of iron. My mother froze when she saw me dripping mud and clutching that silver cup. My father tried to rise, but pain pinned him down. Sadi wheezed in her sleep, face pale as candle wax. I poured a spoonful of the glowing water between her lips. For one terrifying heartbeat, nothing changed. Then she drew in a breath so deep it rattled the walls. The color rushed back into her cheeks, her eyes fluttered open, and she whispered, "It's warm." My mother cried until she couldn't stand. My father covered his mouth and shook. Outside, the wind shifted. Somewhere on the ridge, a bell rang once, though the church had no bell. By dawn, Sadi was laughing again, chasing chickens barefoot like she used to. We didn't tell anyone at first, but miracles, like secrets, have short legs in a hungry town. Within a week, the preacher was at our door, and behind him came the sick, the hopeless, and the curious, each carrying the same question. Is it true? Word spread faster than wind in Cridge Hollow. Within days, the narrow road to our cabin turned into a line of wagons and barefoot strangers. Some came hobbling on canes, others carried children too weak to lift their heads. They all came whispering my name like I'd turned prophet overnight. I was no prophet, just a boy who'd listened when the mountain called. Pastor Miller stood by our gate shaking his head. Miracles draw wolves as well as lambs, he warned. But how do you turn away someone who's already walked 10 miles in hope? The preacher gathered 7 of us, himself, my parents, a miner with black lung, a blind woman, a child twisted by fever, and me, and we returned to the old church together. This time the path glowed faintly in the dusk, as if the mountain itself was guiding us. When we stepped inside, the dust was gone. The pews gleamed like they'd been polished for Sunday service. The candles burned steady, though no match had touched them. The spring below shimmered, pulsing with that same light. Each of us drank in turn, and one by one the burdens fell away. The miner drew his first clean breath in 10 years. The blind woman saw the glow reflected in her tears. The boy laughed like thunder. The pastor knelt, whispering prayers that turned into sobs. But then the doctor who'd come along uncorked a glass vial, muttering about chemical analysis. The instant he filled it, the cavern's song faltered. The light flickered, dimmed. We left in silence, healed yet trembling with guilt. I knew in my bones we'd taken more than we were meant to. By the next week, men in fine coats arrived. They didn't carry Bibles or hope. They carried contracts and maps. The Appalachian Coal and Mineral Company, they called themselves, though everyone in Cridge Hollow knew that name meant ruin. They claimed the ridge and everything under it belonged to them, that the subsurface resources fell under a deed signed before my great-grandfather was born. Pastor Miller tried to fight, but lawyers don't lose to sermons. They'll gut the mountain for coal, my father said, coughing blood into a rag. That spring's just in their way. The preacher swore to appeal, yet even as he spoke, survey stakes appeared around the church like nails in a coffin lid. Nights filled with the echo of engines and drills testing the soil. The town split in two, those desperate for work cheering the company, and those who'd seen the miracle standing silent with fear. I went back alone to the ridge one night. The church stood dark, the trapdoor sealed by stone. I laid the silver cup on the altar and whispered, "Forgive us." For a moment, nothing moved. Then, from deep inside the mountain, a rumble answered, not anger, not mercy, something older than both. I didn't tell anyone what I'd heard, but when I woke the next morning, cracks had split the company's road like lightning had struck it in the night. The company called it sabotage. They brought guards, lights, even a county judge to sign papers declaring the church unsafe. Demolition was set for sunrise. That evening, Pastor Miller came to my house pale and coughing. "I think the Lord's testing us," he rasped. His fever burned like Sadi's once had. I went to the shelf, took down the silver cup, and filled it from the last jar of mountain water we'd saved. He drank, trembling, then smiled. "Whatever happens, Elijah," he said, "remember it's not the water that heals, it's faith." I stayed awake till dawn, listening to the rumble of machines climbing the slope. When I reached the ridge, men in hard hats were stringing cables, preparing charges. I shouted for them to stop, but my voice was swallowed by the engines. Then, as the first drill bit into the soil, the mountain roared. It was not thunder or quake, it was breath. The ground heaved beneath their boots. Engines died. Birds burst from the trees in black clouds. A fissure split the earth, swallowing the lead bulldozer whole. No one was hurt, but every machine lay dead, their metal frames twisted by unseen force. And through the chaos came the faint toll of a bell, the same single note I'd heard the night Sadi was healed. The men fled, shouting of curses, of demons in the mountain. The preacher, weak but alive, fell to his knees and wept. "It listens," he whispered. "God help us, it listens." They never came back after that. The company fenced off the road, posted guards for a few weeks, then vanished when investors pulled out. Officially, they blamed unstable geological activity. Unofficially, nobody wanted to be near a mountain that swallowed machines and sang in the rain. Seasons turned, the forest crept back, and the old church slowly disappeared beneath vines and moss. My father passed a year later, smiling for the first time since the cave-in. Pastor Miller followed him soon after. As for Sadi, she grew up strong, moved away, had children who never knew sickness. I stayed. Some nights when the fog rolls down the ridge and the wind hums through the pines, I still hear that quiet hymn rising from under the earth. It's not words, just a promise. The mountain keeps what it loves. I'm an old man now, but if you ever find yourself wandering these hills and hear your name whispered from the mist, don't run. Stop. Listen. Because sometimes the things we call miracles aren't meant to prove anything. They're meant to remind us that faith and nature share the same heartbeat. And if this story stirred something inside you, share it. Let others remember that hope can live even in the darkest hollows. Subscribe so next time the mountain whispers, you'll be ready to hear it.